Well, let's go ahead and get started in here. So just to make sure you're in the right spot, we're going to be talking about social connections and community building. There's lots of other sessions going on upstairs. So Kelly is in the back. She's leaving right here. She can help point you if you're wanting to go to some of the other sessions. But yeah, so we've already introduced ourselves, but just as a reminder, I'm Jenna. I'm with HDYO.
And I am Katie Jackson. I'm with Help for HD.
Yeah. So we want this to be interactive. So as we go through these things, if you have questions or you want to learn something different, let us know. We can be flexible. We just wanted to put some things together as a way for people, especially as you're going through making those connections, figuring out how to get involved, understanding what your own personal journey looks like. We wanted to cover some of these. And I think some of the questions from this morning's panel were really great because it leans itself into some of these topics. Ooh. There we go. Yeah, so this is us.
I may have put one or two more pictures in you, my bad.
I know, I haven't updated it. That's not a beer. So my name is Jenna. I don't come from an HD family. My background is in patient and community advocacy. I joined HDYO 5 years ago. But what's so amazing, and you heard that this morning too, is that the embrace from the HD community has just been phenomenal. So while coming in, I did not have a genetic relationship to HD. Leading our ambassador program, working with our partners, it is a part of my life. I personally live in Kansas City. So if you hate the Chiefs, sorry. If you like them, let's talk. I have a little kiddo at home who's 7 now. She's crazy. And a lovely husband. And we're the all-American family with no problems at all. Katie, your turn. Just kidding.
I'm kind of the same. No, so this is, I'm Katie Jackson with Help for HD International. I am an HD family member. My husband passed away 8 years ago in August from Huntington's disease after a 14-year battle. I do have children at risk. And my husband and I started advocating right off the beginning, right off the bat. We fell into a wonderful center of excellence, UC Davis, and they basically got us into research on day one. We started doing research. We then started advocating in very different ways together. So I miss advocating with him side by side, but before he died, he said, you gotta keep advocating to save our kids. And I made him a promise, and I've kept that promise even though I haven't gotten sleep in 16 years. But yeah, so this is real quick, just for a couple shots out. That's my husband that passed away in the middle, and our 3 children when they were very young. My husband, Mike, and my kids, Madison, Macy, and Cooper. Madison's 23, Cooper is 20, and Macy's 14. And this is like some of my advocacy with stem cell research advocacy. This is where we funded research benches with different projects we've done, and then our law enforcement education with some of my team and board members. This was us filming our first documentary about juvenile Huntington's disease that won 29 film festival awards. This is us in Washington, D.C. in front of the White House when we were advocating for the FDA starting back in 2015 is when I started working with the FDA in advocacy. And that is my sidekick, my partner in crime, my soulmate, Katrina Hamill. Are we live? Yeah. I don't want her to hear a compliment like that.
Erase.
Yeah, so she is my partner in crime. You don't usually see Katrina without Katie or Katie without Katrina. She's from an HD family as well. She tested negative, but was her mom and brother's caregiver. And then finally, my current husband and my 2 children at the top, and his name is also Michael. Just kind of happened like that. And him and I met through him advocating side by side with me with Help for HD International, actually for my husband, who is the only person he knew with HD. Somehow, we wonderfully ended up together, and we've been married for about a year now.
Yeah. So we wanted to break down some of the things to consider when getting involved, and we talked a little bit about that this morning. There's so much power in talking with someone who just gets it. We use the word rare this morning. And one of the things that's hard when you come from a disease that's considered rare is it's very easy to feel like you stick out of the crowd. You're either isolated, you don't want to talk about it, or you try to talk about it and people just don't understand it. So getting involved is a way to kind of bridge that connection in a way that's comfortable for you. And that comfortability can change, and we'll talk through that. But there's so much power in finding community and feeling heard, you know, and we'll break through the different steps based off of that comfortability. But there is a huge benefit to that. I know, Katie, you getting involved from your own journey and then seeing how it really impacts others. You just see the night and day difference. And it's not like we solve problems differently. It's just that you have that support, that backer for your journey. So one thing to really think about is, what are your fears and concerns with getting involved and stepping forward? There's a lot of stigma that comes with HD. So is it the fear of someone else having opinions about you? Is it you don't have enough time? Some things that we hear about in this community is there's so many different relationships to HD. We hear imposter syndrome a lot. So imposter syndrome can come for people who even test negative. You know, do I have a right to share my story if I test negative? If I'm adopted, if I'm an extended family member, you know, there's so many different things that people can feel like with that. If you're at risk, you know, I don't really understand what my place is yet. If you're gene positive, then maybe it's harder to share your story. Maybe you're fearful of even some discrimination out there. Same thing with symptomatic. You know, all of these different feelings are really challenging. And I want to highlight the ones at the bottom. You know, that fear of sounding stupid or silly is a big one. You know, you are the owner of your journey, so you never will, but that's also a big fear when you start to talk about it. And you also have some situations to where maybe your family isn't open about Huntington's disease. So how do you share about it in a way that's meaningful for you that doesn't necessarily out the experiences of your whole family? So whatever your fears are, it's important to get those out on the table. So then you can start to analyze, what does getting involved look like for you? So things to consider, things like, how much time do I want to give? And this is important, that getting involved comes with different steps, and we'll go through those. So when you get involved, sometimes it's like, okay, I'm giving myself to this organization or to this cause. But you also are going to be getting a lot back into it, and you need to get involved in a way that you are getting back from that. But there is a time commitment. So thinking about, what's your time commitment? What are your strengths, and how do you want to utilize those? What's your comfortability level sharing about HD? What are your goals for getting engaged? And how will you most feel safe about getting involved? Katie, you shared that you guys just like jumped into the pool. So like, what was that thought process for you like?
We did. We jumped in the pool and then we pulled back. And that's that HD burnout and that HD break that needs to happen. It like consumed our whole life, and we realized like my husband's life was going to be short, and we had to live. We had to travel. We had to do stuff. So we went in full force. We were talking to the FDA. We were, you know, the first patient listening session ever for Huntington's disease, which is called a PFDD with the FDA. I was patient one, panel one. I put together that meeting with the FDA when I was very young. I'm older now. And so I helped, when Judy Roberson, they started it, then I went in and I helped the FDA, and we structured that first meeting ever. And so I went in full force, like that was working with regulatory, and then that takes so much time, and I realized so much time was lost. So I did have to pull back. So I think that one thing that we've talked about this morning, it's really important not to make advocacy become your whole life. It doesn't need to be your whole life. You still have a life. It's just, but it does really help as far as the support. You actually are gonna get more back through advocacy than you're gonna give, believe it or not.
And I think it's important to also reiterate the differences of advocacy. Advocacy is a big word that means a lot of different things. I like to talk about it like big A advocacy. What Katie was talking about was big A advocacy. That's advocating so outwardly through these different movements, going to the FDA, writing your senators, your legislators, all of those kinds of things. There's also the little a advocacy, which is advocating for my own self and my own needs. And so advocacy has these different spectrums too. So I think the cool thing is that you all get to decide what that looks like, and that may change, and that's okay. But even advocating for yourself is a huge, important thing too.
That's like the big A. I like that you said big A level. Well,
Swipe it.
But yeah, no, but it is true. We don't often think about self-advocacy as important, but it is actually the most important thing. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit more about this. So you might know that one, Melissa. She's crazy. There are different spectrums of getting involved. So we wanted to just share a little bit about some of those ways. And while Katie talked about like jumping feet first into the pool, sometimes you just want to dip your toe a little bit and try some things out. So that's what this slide is really looking at. So one thing to talk about is like talking about HD in your close inner circle. That's a big step. It's kind of a good way to test it out, to see what are their questions, how did that make you feel, do you feel comfortable sharing this out a little bit more outwardly. People say the dumbest things sometimes out of the best of intentions. So this is a good way to start with some of your close friends, so then that way you can really understand what that's like.
And Jenna, can I step in?
Yeah, please.
We actually, for that, in Help for HD, we have HD Trivia. We started it years ago, and we did start it for these opening conversations with family and friends about HD. And so there's different sections. So it's like, what is HD? But also, who are the Guthries? Like, so some of it's fun, HD Trivia, like about our history, where the gene was found, when the gene was found. And so that's also, if you guys need that opening conversation, sometimes that just kind of guides, and then that, one question will lead into the deeper stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. We're assured about HD. It's amazing that if you go in and you're at the airport or at the grocery store, we're assured about HD. That lends itself to open conversations. But, everybody got a shirt today. So even if you're not from an HD family, but that gives you an opportunity to say Huntington's disease. It's important because of this, and that helps spread the awareness. This is a big one that really gets downplayed, is social media. There are definitely some toxic things in social media, but social media, by and large, is really important for the HD community, because that's the way a lot of people get information. There's such a safety of being behind a screen and still getting that information that allows a bit of anonymity for people, and then all of a sudden they reach out when they're ready to for support. So especially for people with children who aren't quite ready to reach out for help yet, that first step of following social media gives them a way to receive the information without having to step out and say, I'm here. So we host an international conference every 2 years, and last year we were in Prague, and I got this note on Instagram that said, hey, just want to let you know I'm in Austria. I'm going to come to your event. This is the first event I've ever been to. I've been following you along for 10 years. I'm so excited to be there. And I wrote back and said, this is great. Let's set up a time to talk. Let's talk about what the event's going to be like, how we can support you. And she said, nope. Just want you to know that I'm here. That's it. That first step was so important to her. And so we can't downplay the power of shared experiences through vetted social media channels is really important. There's also chat groups too through there. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going back, and the chat groups are really nice because it's more of your private setting. Nothing online is private, let's be honest. Like, we've all learned that. But at least we've, at that point, we don't have, like, our families and friends that are coming in and seeing these conversations, especially. So we have our support group chats. We have caregiver. We have PPM, that's prodromal, early manifest, pre-manifest. We have JHD. We have bereavement. I'm sure I'm missing, but those are the 4 that we do online. But I wanted to say, going back to the shirt real quick, like for caregivers, my husband would wear HD shirts. He had sensory issues, so like putting like a bracelet on him. Well, first of all, he kept breaking them. And then so we found some that were unbreakable, but then it bothered him. It was annoying. So the shirt was really nice because he was wearing a shirt out anyways. And I found the difference of public impact was crazy when he was wearing a shirt compared to when he wasn't. And we always have to educate people, but like we don't want to be in a situation where sometimes we don't want to have to educate people. Like we're out with our kids, we're having ice cream, we're doing our thing, we're living with our family. We don't have to, want to be educated at that time. Sometimes the shirt does the educating for you, which is really nice because they're staring and they're looking, and then they see a shirt and they read and then they back off. And they let you have your family time. So shirts are super important, I think, not only because of awareness, but also to bring down that public impact. a little bit. And then they will probably ask you when they see the shirt. And you educate as much as you feel like that day, depending on your energy and what you feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. Online events do the same kind of thing that social media does, where you're getting the information, but again, from the safety of your own home, behind a screen, you can still get that. You can outreach, comment, all of those different things. Game Over HD with HD Reach is amazing. I don't know how many of you all like to play video games, but this is a great way to just be in a common space with a common interest and not necessarily have to talk about HD, but you're being connected. It's just really fun. So if you're interested, I know that Erica has information, and then I know that Drake is doing some streaming with Game Over HD upstairs too. Practice telling your story and talking about it. This is really helpful too, because then when you are addressed in public, you have a way to be able to share it in a way that you feel comfortable with. I know that sometimes it gets a little bit off-putting if people come in and ask you when you're not really prepared, but sharing your story and practicing sharing your story is really helpful to kind of get your mindset about what do you want to say about it. It's a little bit cut off here, but online surveys. Surveys are hugely important, and there's so many different ones, and a lot of this really helps us better understand what's important to you all. So we have a survey series where we're looking at a few things. One, how are people seeking out support and resources? So then that way, when we have, I'm going to pick on pharma in the room, so pardon me, but when we have pharma presentations and they're presenting it in a certain way, we can say, look, this is what the community is telling us of how they want to receive this information. So we share it out, through conversational stories and not small charts and graphs that they can't read. Some of these things about educational information, stigmas, about the journey of young people impacted by HD. We know some of these things, but we need to have big numbers to make big change happen. So when you're talking about through lived experiences and through how you think and feel and what you feel is important, surveys are such an easy way to participate, and people actually listen and change behavior based off of it. So it's really important.
Yeah, and let me tell you guys this. I mean, we just learned this about the petition that we put out, right, as orgs, and we got, 41,000 signatures. But on top of that, was even more important was all the comments we got, because we were able to do analysis. And, I'm going to tell you guys a little secret. It's not a secret. It's open. I'm joking. It went up, and I was actually on the Type A meeting with Unicure, with the FDA. And the one thing that helped me in that meeting when I was advocating with the FDA and helping teach them about HD was the surveys that were taken through Help for HD. I had no clue. We asked about what was the most important thing to our HD community. Overwhelmingly, everyone said they wanted to slow the progression of Huntington's disease down. I was able to tell that fact about that survey. Those petitions, all the sentiment about regulatory flexibility needed in HD, how much we need clinical trials expedited, all these things that needed, that I told the FDA that day was from my community, because they stood up and they took the surveys.
And you need that evidence, because there's the shared experience, but then they need the numbers to say it's not just me, it's all these other people too.
Yeah, so that simple survey where you answered 20 questions, those answers made it to the FDA. Mm-hmm. So that is how important these surveys are. And I know we overloaded them. We know we overload you guys, and I apologize.
I don't. We want them for no.
But if you can take them, it actually goes further than what you think.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of a toe dip. So then we're going to dive a little bit more in. So we already talked a little bit about some of these online support groups and forums. So this isn't just you following along. This is taking that next step into kind of sharing your own perspective, standing outwardly a little bit more in the community. Contact an association. We all do things a little bit differently, but we all work well together. But it's great to know kind of how you're going to use each association and for what needs. So contacting association, again, like my story of just saying that I exist, I want to learn more. That's really important, because arming yourself with the resources for when you're ready, when you want to learn more, is the best thing you can do, even before you're ready to actually use those resources. I mean, you guys are already doing all of this here. You're meeting community members. You're sharing your own story on a one-on-one perspective. This is so important. Through HDSA, they have local chapters. So whether it's through the NYA or the local chapters, check those out, because there's regional support on top of national support. HDYO has ambassadors. So we have ambassadors of young people globally, and we now have 140 from 30 different countries who are there to support one another. This is a group that we've created kind of that atmosphere of both anonymity and community building through WhatsApp, through texting, which is so important. And they're there to help support one another through lived experiences, but then they also help us better understand how we can do our job better through program decisions, through feedback, through sharing their story outwardly. So it's a really good group of people, and it's designed to where people can also retreat back if they need to. Then we have our local HD event, and we also have our Enroll HD and observational studies, especially for people who are interested in participating in clinical trials at some point. Participating in an observational study is a really good first step, because if it's difficult for you to commit to a once-a-year appointment to go in and do an Enroll HD visit, then the feasibility of you doing a more time-consuming experience with a clinical trial may not be there, and that's okay. So it's a good way to not only do something that's extremely meaningful, but it also allows you to test kind of your own will and your own situation of, is this right for me to participate in a clinical trial? Because it is a big investment. So there's lots of different ways to do that. Also, you might be more terrified of needles if you don't do it, but once you go do it, something like that, it might not be as scary. So there's lots of different reasons why participating in observational studies are a really great idea. So even further, so start to tell your story through different platforms to the community. Speak out about your experiences about HD. Join boards and committees. For young people, we have the Youth and Young Adult Mentorship Program in partnership with the NYA. And then again, participating in clinical research. Katie, what are some other ways that you see, especially for this last step of really getting involved?
Yeah, and I know on our I think that further down, I have a couple suggestions on where to go to start this process. But I think also a lot of the times we also have Help for HD, and we have a radio show, right? We have over 100,000 listeners internationally. That's insane for being a podcast about Huntington's. Our listenership is out of this world, and we are the first and largest podcast for Huntington's, by the way. But we need you to be guests. That's telling your story. And I know that's sometimes super hard. And I always say, don't tell it until you're ready, because we have had people that have come on and then they're like, can you take that down? And we're like, we can, but a lot of people have already heard it. Yeah. But when you're ready, we do have those kind of places too, like the radio shows, and we have a TV show, and we have blogs that you can start telling your story. So we'll talk about some of those avenues.
Yeah, there's lots of options. Okay, so we have 4 different associations here. So we wanted to share some of the ways to get involved with this. So we already chatted a little bit about the Youth and Young Adult Mentorship Program. This is partnership between HDYO and HDSA. And if you think about big brothers and big sisters, it's very similar to that, except what we're doing is we're taking trained young adults who are more veteran in the community and pairing them with young people who are mentees who maybe need that extra peer-to-peer support. Sometimes our mentees have very specific needs, so things like, I'm going through genetic testing and I want to be paired with someone who's gone through it before. Sometimes people may want someone who's gone through IVF or family planning, who has the same relationship to HD. So someone with a mom or a dad who's symptomatic is really helpful, or even regional. And basically, it's just having a buddy who can be someone to talk to. Those mentors and mentees also have the support of a youth social worker at HDSA. So if they need that extra level of guidance, they have someone there. So this is a really important program that kind of takes it out of the public eye. It's all behind the scenes. I don't even know who all of our mentors are, but that's done by design because we want to give them that grace of privacy as well. So this is a really great program, especially for those young people in your lives who could benefit from that one-on-one care. HDSA also has a series of different retreats. They have a young person retreat coming up the weekend of the 24th of July, I believe, in Utah. They also have youth social workers and regular social workers for adults as well, all throughout the country. So the centers of excellence, I typically have a social worker dedicated to HD. There are several here today. So these are really important resources for everybody in the community. They have a variety of different support groups, virtual and in person. And that carries across all of the different self-identifiers within the community. So whether you know your gene status and what that gene status is, for people who are early symptomatic, family planning, young adults, caregivers, there's a large amount of resources available. And then they also have their national convention. And so this year it'll be June 25th, happening in Phoenix. So this is connecting with HDSA is a really great resource on top of their other programs that they offer. We talked specifically about advocacy opportunities. There's been a lot coming down the pipeline recently with all of the different research news, and we're going to continue to push for that because the regulatory agencies and bodies, the legislators need to hear from the community on what's important to them, what is how they want to see things going forward and how research can impact that. So please continue to follow along with what HDSA is doing and our collaborations across the board when it comes to that. HD Reach. So you all are very familiar with HD Reach, but I also know that there are some people who are newer who are here, which is amazing. So they have Game Over HD, which we talked about, and they also have a book club where they go through different books that are related to HD and not related to HD. And it's just a good way, again, to build that community through common interests. They talked a little bit about meetups. These are really awesome. They have a lot throughout the state of North Carolina. So it's a great way to meet other people within a stone's throw of where you live, and you get to meet their team. So please consider going to their different meetups. They have virtual support groups. They have the partnership with Vanderbilt where they help host monthly support groups specifically through them. They've got their partnership with HD Genetics to where Erica jumps on with Wes. Shout, BJ's staring at his phone. He's not even paying attention. Where Erica chats with Wes for a support group about specifically with genetic testing. They have a dedicated care navigator to help with all things related to HD, so being that connector. They have their education conference. You guys know that you're here. It's pretty fun. And then they have the therapy path, decision path, and anonymous genetic testing, and that's offered in North Carolina and Virginia. So there's a lot of really great local, regional support through HD Reach, so continue to use them, especially in this area as your home base. I chatted a bit about our ambassador program. So we have information on that if you have young people who maybe want to meet others. The cool thing about the ambassadors is that it's international. So if you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning with a question, someone is awake on the ambassador chat. We have people from Australia, New Zealand, Bahrain, Bangladesh, India, Morocco, Egypt, all throughout Europe, South America. It's literally international. So you get a lot of different perspectives on top of just having people that understand what it's like to be a young person. So for example, we had someone who put into the chat this week that they had gone through testing and received their results. And I'm not going to share what those are, but they were able to share because they felt comfortable in this community, and they got a tremendous amount of outpouring of support from people who they haven't met before in person, but they just understood it, and they can understand it in a way that some of us will never understand. They also help serve on panels, and they're leaders across the board as well. We have a variety of different events coming up. So we host a North American camp in partnership with our US and Canadian partners. This is happening this August. What camp is it takes people who apply, and based off of their applications, we pair them into smaller groups. So we do that based off of similar circumstances or needs. So people who have gone through genetic testing, people who maybe are in adopted families, people who have gone through certain levels of grief or bereavement. And we put them in small groups to have extremely personal discussions in a fun, relaxing environment with a social worker and people with lived experiences. So they can really talk about things like grief and loss and coping and how and relationships and things like that. And so we do it in a way that's safe, that is with people who understand it, so they can walk away knowing that they have support and an extended family around them. Plus, it's fun. You get to go canoeing, and there's kayaking and swimming and rope swings and all of that fun stuff. Our applications technically closed at the middle of March. However, we haven't taken it off the website because we know that there are people who are going to find out about it who may want to apply. So even while we're offering this to people who've already applied, if you have young people 16 to 26 who are maybe interested, still encourage them to go check it out at our website. I've got my cards over there, information, because there's still opportunities to go this year. But we'll continue to do it every 2 years. I mentioned also about our International Congress. We're going to be going to Barcelona next March, the 12th through the 14th. And this is the only conference in the world that's just to get dedicated to the young adult experience. It's a lot of fun. It's amazing to think of 400 people walking away with this extended family, but that's what happens. There's such a power of walking into a larger room of people who you know understand and can understand what you've gone through. We don't always get to do that. But then again, as I mentioned earlier, you add in the international component of it, and it gets even greater with that need, with the discrepancies of care, access, and awareness. So we also offer scholarships. So we try as best as possible to financially help support people attending. Last year, we were able to offer 180 scholarships at varying levels, working with our partnering organizations. So we work with people like HD Reach, helped send one of their volunteers over. And a lot of you guys know H. Patton. He got to come, which was really great. Erica and Melissa were there. We work with our partners across the world to help send young people. So it's a really great experience. Okay, now I'm going to shut up. You go.
Okay. I didn't realize you're in our picture. You must have done this slide. I would have never put BJ in a picture. Just kidding, because I'm going to talk about a program, that's why. So with Help for HD, I'm going to just go over programs with you guys really quick. We'll speed date. So I can tell you about some things that we offer and ways you can get involved. So one thing is Help for HD TV. Help for HD TV is actually mostly done over Zoom. It's over Zoom, and then it goes on YouTube, and it also goes on Facebook Live. So this is just a place you can tell your story. Help for HD Live is our mother program. This is the one that we were HD families sitting around a kitchen table. We said there is no education. There is about stem cell research. We can't find anything out there. This was 20 years ago, and there was this thing called a podcast. It was a brand new thing, and we launched a podcast for Huntington's disease. We were blown away because internationally people started listening to this show. It still runs to the day. The coolest thing, our first show we did was with someone called Lauren Holder. Some of you guys may know her, and she was just talking about advocacy. That was our first show. She now runs and hosts our radio show, which is really cool that it went full circle. Our LEAP program is our law enforcement education program. So this is where there's two components to this. One, we give you all the tools you need to educate your local law enforcement. So everything from PowerPoints to videos. And so what you can do is you can take this into your local office and ask to do an advanced training session. And they usually will say yes. They actually really like when people come, especially if you're able to bring someone with Huntington's with you so they can interact and talk to them. I travel all over the nation and teach law enforcement across the nation with Vicki Owen and Katrina. We've taught at the International Chief of Police Association that has 14,000 leadership officers from across the globe. Crisis Intervention International, we train there. We actually do a training on Huntington's disease for crisis intervention co-responders and first responders. Vicki does local law enforcement all over. The one thing when we ask the law enforcement or crisis intervention teams, what is something that you wish we would do to help you? And they said, we wish that people would come into our office and let us know that they're there. And there are databases, yes, there are. But you creating that relationship with your local law enforcement, saying, hey, we're a Huntington's disease family. We may need you every once in a while. You may get called on us. When my loved one's in Starbucks, this is my loved one. Please call me, and we can work together as a team. A lot of the times, law enforcement is very receptive to that. Sometimes it takes a while to find the right person that is receptive to that. But if you need help with that, call Vicki. She is a pit bull. She will find someone that is receptive for you to advocate beside you, so you don't have to do it alone. Also, you saw over here in our thing, we have car decals that say someone with Huntington's disease is on board. People put this on their car, not only for HD awareness, it's wonderful, but also if you're in a car accident and you're a caregiver and you're non-responsive and your loved one's in the car with HD, the first responders and co-responders that come on the scene need to know that there's someone in the car that may not be able to articulate pain, that may have involuntary movements, they may be, have cognitive impairment. That way, and so that helps this conversation. There's also, and I heard from someone recently that their wife was pulled over. She's still able to drive, and the police officer saw our sticker on the car, and he said, I was going to arrest her, and then I read this sticker, and I asked for your phone number because she's very upset, so I'm not gonna take her to jail. I would really like it if you'd come get her because she needs your assistance. So that sticker saved that family from the horrible trauma of her having to go to jail for no reason. So those stickers are over there. There's also ID cards. Those are all free for you guys. Go ahead and take those. Getting involved, so that you're getting involved with your local law enforcement, teaching them about Huntington's disease, not just for your family, but all families in your area. Help for HD Relief, we have a relief fund. We help with quality of life essentials. Around Christmas, we send thousands of holiday meals across the nation so people could have a Thanksgiving and a holiday meal in December, thanks to a whole bunch of wonderful people like Neurocrine Biosciences and Angels of the Abbey that help make this amazing program part of. We take advantage that we get to sit around the table and have a Christmas dinner. Some families with HD don't. So we make sure that that's possible. If you know a family that needs our help, let us know. HD Awareness Month, we are launching next month. This is the time to hit the social media, run in, tell your story, bring awareness. This is our month to do that. We at Help for HD, we're gonna be sending 350 boxes across the nation, awareness boxes with awareness items for people for free for you to wear them. All we ask is you take some pictures and share them with us so we can see awareness at work. That will start next week. The Huntington's Post is our online news article. Our database, our resource database has all local resources. It's AI driven. Isn't that the new word? AI, don't get scared. It only means that it can find where you live. And human vetted resources that have been vetted by humans that they have worked for people with families with Huntington's disease. It's overwhelming, so if you need any help with it, our social worker, Jamie Holloway, would be more than happy to walk you through that resource. Our social work program, we have support groups, online support groups, we have caregiver, we have PPEM, we have bereavement. And here's the thing about bereavement. I want you guys to know this. I'm just saying this as your fellow community. You don't bereave and grieve at death. We grieve our whole entire journey. And people say, oh, you grieve from diagnosis. No, we don't. Because we know that our family members are at risk way before diagnosis. We live a life of grief. Anticipatory grief, disenfranchised grief, you name the griefs, we live them. So pulling together and coming to a bereavement group or a grief group, your loved one does not have to be gone. You need support through the whole journey for this, because unfortunately we live a life full of grief. Publications, all the books, those are free. I think there's like 3 more. Please take them home. I don't want to take them to California. They're heavy. We do have an HD cookbook for swallowing and high calorie intake. I just don't have them here, but we can send them to you. Our genetic testing fund through HD Genetics. Right now, the fund is on hold, but it will go back on. We've been running it for how long now? 2 years. We've tested, I don't even know how many families through this. I mean, HD Genetics have done a ton, but through our fund where we've paid for the assistance to help people get tested. Huge shout out to so many donors for that one. It's such a huge program. We have the Griffin Foundation, we have Angels of the Abbey, we have Novartis, for like really recognizing how important it is to help people have access to genetically test from home if they choose. I know that not about connection. Sorry, I'm almost done. The toolkit, that is our new program of 2026. We launched it with end of life planning. So this helps you plan your end of life with your loved one. It not only goes through, all the insurance and all that, but it also talks about memories and writing your own story that your family wants will listen to for years to come. So it talks about those prompting questions of how you want to be remembered. And I have a little secret for you. We're all going to die. So everyone should be taking that and doing that for their family. It's important. Biggest blessing my husband did for me was he end-of-life planned for me. I never questioned if he wanted to be cremated. I never questioned if he wanted a feeding tube. He told me what he wanted, and it was my job to follow his wishes, and I did. So end-of-life planning is incredibly important, and now we are launching next week at our event in Baltimore, our safety planning part of the toolkit, which is really cool. So that's fun. Toolkit. Symposium, we're going to be in Des Moines, Iowa this year. We travel from state to state every year. That's our largest event of the year. Our height programs are in-person programs. This next week we'll be in Baltimore, then we'll be in LA, California, and we do 2 virtual. We usually have, like, our last virtual event, well, we did one with Victor Sung. We had 14,000 people watching our virtual event. So they're highly watched. They're super, super wonderful for education and resources. So please tune into those. You can find those on social media and on our website. Social media I just mentioned. I think that's it.
So there's just a lot, right? And it's hard to kind of go through all of those different things. We talked about the event. Sorry, I should have done that. We've talked a bit about research. So these are a list of different observational studies, whether you are impacted yourself or have loved ones. So there's a lot of observational studies that can be done now. And then as more clinical trials come down the line, we talked about that this morning, about those partnerships with your neurologist and trying to find those trusted sources for how you would like to participate in trials and staying abreast to what's coming down the line. It's a lot of information. The important thing is that there's stuff out there. And with making these connections, being here in person, reaching out to organizations, seeing what works best for you, for those different conversations, we can help guide you through that. Again, it's totally fine to take a break. It's fine to investigate and say, not ready yet. It's fine to dive in. It's fine to do whatever. You all are the drivers in this journey. We're just providing resources for if and when you're ready, we can help guide you and help be a support to you in any way. But please make sure that you stay connected with all of the associations because we're really here for all of you. We have 2 exact minutes. For I don't know, but yeah, we're terrible. Yes, let me grab the microphone.
Tell me about the podcast.
Yeah. Can you share again about the podcast?
Yeah, so we go every single week, and Lauren Holder is the host at this time. But if you want to, if I can send you the link to the podcast, we have over 600 available episodes on iTunes, Spotify, blog. There's a whole bunch of, we're kind of everywhere. Apple, I said iTunes.
Yep.
But if you want to be on the show, please contact me because we would love to have you and have Lauren interview you anytime. But I will send you also, I call it the HD library history of 600 shows that you could listen to. I don't know who would have time for that, but I would love to send them to you if you want.
The podcast name?
Help for HD Live.
Well, thank you all so much. Again, we know the conversation may start here, but it doesn't end here. So please reach out. We're all here for you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Oh, and I am running right now. I'm grabbing my bag. I'm jumping on an airplane because I have to go across the country. But I'm going to leave all this stuff. Please, please take everything that you want because if not, poor HD Reach is going to be stuck with it again for another year. Everyone take care, and we'll see you guys down the road.